Come for our miles of pristine beaches and vibrant art scenes. Stay for our diverse cultural experiences. Plan your trip now, Miami and MiamiBeach.com. On this season of the Leading with Audacious Confidence podcast, we share stories from corporate executives and tips from those who coach them to high performance on what it really takes to build and keep your confidence in this fast-paced, ever-changing world of business, and how they inspire others to lead with confidence. Be ready to take lots of notes because there's always some juicy nuggets coming your way. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. I'm your host, Alicia Curry, and with me today is Gino Herring. And let me share all about Gino, and we will get right down into this. So Gino is the founder and CEO of Best Candidate, mobile platform designed to increase communication between voters and candidates. He's a past director of voter education for the local elections board for 20 years and is itching to disrupt the way elections are run in this country, one candidate and one voter at a time. Welcome, Gino.
Thank you very much. Boy, it sounds like I'm an old man after reading that.
No, you started in the stroller with your mom.
Yeah, pretty much. Educating
Let's just say that.
for my whole life. Educators are all around me. So I've been, doing this a long time.
Awesome. We had a conversation before and you had this brilliant idea for this platform, but then you were kind of thrust into this leadership role, kind of unwittingly. Like I wasn't sure that I was good. How did I end up as the CEO of this whole shebang, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about like that journey. Like what was that learning curve like for you?
It's a great question, great place to start, because when you're a leader, sometimes you realize that everything you do is being not just sponged up by other people and people that are around you, but kind of scrutinized sometimes too. And you want to always do the best. You always want to set an example. So I felt as though I wasn't educated enough. So I took some time and went back to school and got some real solid knowledge behind my belt so I could be able to at least have some more self-awareness of what the things I was deficient in and be able to get some people around me to, take up those deficiencies, the experts in those fields.
Wow.
It was kind of tough at first.
So many people don't take the time to do that, to actually gain the leadership skills that they need in order to continue to lead people. That's why I have a job. Because, a lot of times people are promoted into positions of leadership without any leadership experience, without ever having led anyone. And they end up floundering. And it's not that they're not a good employee or they weren't brilliant at what they did. It's that now you've shifted them into a completely new role without giving them the tools. And so, it's good that you thought that out yourself.
I feel exactly that. I feel like, you're going to be at some point not knowledgeable about your trade or even your group that you're supposed to be leading and guiding. And so you have to look inside yourself a little bit. I found that you've got to be able to just bare yourself and say, look, I don't know this. And also be willing to learn from the people who are around you.
Yes.
And someone that can do that will gain the trust of the people that they're leading and guiding, I think.
Yeah, my coach and mentor always says that self-awareness is like the most important skill or the most important thing that a leader needs to have is increased self-awareness. Like that's your gold right there.
I think that without that, I think you're kind of fooling yourself. And I think I put myself back to when I was teaching. I realized then that I was just as responsible to being in that classroom as the kids were, or students were, I should say. They expected things from me also, and I had to realize that. I expected them to be in class every day, do the right thing, do your homework, those kind of things. But if I wasn't there one day, out sick or something, the next day I was there. Mr. Herring, where were you?
Where were
You
you?
missed
We were
class.
here.
You were
Where
making
were
sure
you?
we here every day. You better be here too, Mr. Herring. They got in my face. That was the first time I realized that, you know what? I'm just as responsible too.
Yeah.
I'm preaching it, and I'd be able to show them that I'm just as liable to scrutiny, and I need to be able to pull my own weight as a professor, as a teacher, as a guidance person to stand and deliver a topic just as much as I expect them to be able to receive that. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah. So as you went back to school to learn some of these skills for leadership, aside from self-awareness, what were some of the other big lessons that you learned when going back that you weren't doing that now you could implement?
I think the very first thing to realize is that I was afraid to fail. I want this so much. I want to be able to help people so much. I think what we're creating is such a change, a game changer, I'd say, that I was afraid to even admit that I didn't know things. And once you're able to admit that, and also not afraid to fail, but fail early, you're going to be building up those failures and know exactly what not to do anymore. The light bulb was made 1,000 attempts. The first 999 failed, but that one time, now we have lights.
Yeah.
And same thing with any kind of product or any kind of guidance or leadership role that you have. You're learning constantly from the people that are around you, but you also you have to acknowledge that you don't know things and have the integrity enough to say, I don't know this, let me learn from you. And that creates a bond with the folks that you're around. So I had to be able to know that and just to relinquish that. And once I did, it felt like I was being bombarded with things that I need to know. Now I just was receptive to that more.
That's excellent. I love that point. Elon Musk created that culture around innovation and creativity and creating things that fail.
Yeah.
We celebrate. We get excited when we fail because that's one step closer to actually getting it done. Now we know what we're not supposed to do the next time. So he would celebrate with them every time they failed a rocket launch or something like that. It's this culture of let's just keep going and don't beat yourself up because it didn't work.
How many successful launches come after the unsuccessful ones? That's the most important goal.
That's the important goal, right?
Those launches aren't going to work at some point. Something's going to go wrong. But if you can harbor the right kind of attitude that lets you know and allow yourself to keep going, and okay, we check those boxes off, that didn't work. Let's change the ignition process. Let's change the fuel, whatever. So that now we know that doesn't work. Let's change something else, and keep on going and going. And the team around him also had to have that same kind of perseverance.
Yeah.
And know that he's leading us to get this thing done. And so to be able to look at that coach, that teacher, that leader, and see the confidence in them,
right? I'm
gives
glad
you the confidence too to keep on coming back to work.
That was my next kind of segue into that, because I was going to say, how did that build your own confidence once you were able? Because when you realize that failure is your next step to success, it's not the end. It's not like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? That helps build your confidence because that's a part of the process.
Yeah, that's a great part of it. And I think just in thinking about that, I just realized that, more and more you're going to come across things, even in my own endeavor to get this thing out, this application, this service. I'm going to come across failures, people who aren't interested, people I'm working with and working for me and with me aren't doing their part. I got to know how to take all of the goodness that they have provided and they are bringing and count on those. You're going to have people every single day that are not going to realize the value in something that you're creating or that you're bringing to the table. And they're going to show negativity towards you as well. I think that just if you could take one thing from them, be a sponge to their negativity so that you know what not to get from the next one.
Don't let it spread. Yeah.
Don't let it spread. Yeah. it somehow, some way, everything has value, whether it be a negative comment or it be something else. Now I know to expect that kind of thing from this group or from that person or from this
Yeah.
process that I'm implementing. So
I always tell people take
yeah,
it as data points. Don't look, it's data points. Don't take it personally.
yeah.
Um, eh,
If you have
if
the
you can.
wisdom enough to do that, definitely.
Yeah. That's why I love that book, Four Agreements, that says don't take anything personally. When you start taking things personally, then you can kind of get derailed. But if you take it as data, then you're like, okay, well, they said that, so let's, you know, put that in this column over here and let's evaluate it and see the truth in it, what's true, what's not true. Let's pull it apart and see if maybe there's there might be a little kernel of truth in there, and what can we take out of that and use for our benefit. So don't always take a negative comment personally, or to that something is completely wrong with you. Look at it as data. I also love to share with people, when I say that failure is a part of your success, is because when you look at babies trying to walk, they don't just fall one time and give up and say, oh God, I'm never going to do
Can
this.
you
So I'm
imagine?
just going to sit here the rest of my life.
None of us would be walking here, would be crawling around everywhere.
Everybody would be just sitting.
Oh, well, we can't walk. So.
We can't walk. We tried. We tried. We looked at everybody doing it and we tried,
We'll
and
get
it
some
just didn't work.
scooters and get if maybe.
So if you want to take it to like the most basic part, because we get to be adults and we start thinking that everything has to work out the first time, right? Everything has to be perfect the first time, and it doesn't work that way. So, so let's talk about this bright idea that you had. So you've been in education, the voter education, for 20 years now.
Yeah.
What made you kind of want to disrupt? What made you come up with this idea in the first place?
I love answering that why question, because that gets to the heart of what we're trying to create here. Most importantly, I start by saying that government is not a fictitious entity. It's not abstract. It's made up of people. People actually run the government. We elect them. We put them into power, represent us. We are people that vote. People are behind the DMV line when you actually go to there and talk to them. Those are actually people. So the institution itself is one thing, but we tend to forget that they're actual people that do the work. And I think a lot of times, even in selecting those folks to work for you or with you, a lot of times it's overlooked that you need to have certain people in line to do certain tasks. And instead of filling a seat or giving a paycheck, it's important to know that the masses, there's two different kinds from the standpoint of the government and the standpoint of actual capital and companies and business. It's two different things. Here's my case in point. If an organization sees 15 people out there and one of them decides not to buy their candy bar, that person is not as important. But if all 15 don't buy it, there's an issue. Now you got my attention as the employer, the owner of that business. Take elections on the other side of that. For some reason, the people, the masses, aren't important unless all of them are swaying one way or another. However, every single one of those people is important, because if that one person doesn't vote, that could determine the outcome of an actual election. So people don't understand that. A lot of folks don't understand that my vote doesn't count. I'm not going to even bother. I don't like those people. I can't deal with this process. Apathy, everything's getting crazy. And being in elections for 20 years, I was able to see a lot of beautiful things, a lot of just mind-blowing positivity, people getting together and just voting. And it's like a beautiful choir singing. You see Whitney at the front there, and you hear this orchestra, and you just see beauty around you, people voting. And then sometimes you see an experience like something that comes to mind as a young lady who gets there at 7:01, polls close at 7. She has 3 children in tow. She says, "Can I please just vote?" And she starts crying because I have to tell her, "No, you can't. I apologize." But she got her at 7:01. The polls closed. And so the 3 kids are in tow are looking at her crying. And those are 3 children trying, why, Mama, why are you crying? Well, she didn't realize the polls closed, but they told her at work that she could leave at 6:45 to get 30 minutes away from a polling place to actually vote. And The education did not filter down to her.
Oh,
She promised that her mother, who was Creole, Haitian, just got naturalized, became a citizen for the first time. She promised her she was going to vote, yet she couldn't. And she, 3 kids in tow also were crying. So those kinds of experiences have a lasting effect on me and the process, knowing that I am in charge of voter education for 1.2 million people and I have staff of 3 to do it. The government sometimes as an entity cannot control the actual monies coming down to an unfunded mandate. Mandate me being having to educate 1 million people with 4 staff. The entrepreneurial spirit in me kicked in about 10 years ago. There's
yeah,
got to be some way that we can make a change, some way that we can get in the households of people who are moving from out of state, students that are turning 18 years old, ready to vote, people that are coming here to the country for the first time, being naturalized, ready to vote, but don't know how, when, or why they're doing it. There's got to be a way. And I thought to myself, I think I can do this. I think I can create some kind of application because everybody's got one of these phone things in their hands all the time now.
yeah,
We transfer billions of dollars every single day back and forth. Why can't we do education? Voter education is the foundation of a democracy. Why don't we prioritize that? That light bulb went off in me, and that prompted me to just step out of the standard box that says do it this way all the time for 246 years. That's how old our country is.
yeah.
Yet we still hadn't prioritized this little thing called voter education. That's kind of why.
And that's so important too. It's so, we're talking about leadership. And when we are voting for someone in power, someone to be our leader, if we're not informed correctly, not just about what they stand for and their what their platform is and all the false stuff that's out there, not just that stuff,
And there's a lot.
and there's a lot of that, but just simply the process of getting there. Like I had an experience because I could vote for the first time in the last local election because I was naturalized last year.
Yes.
So I am a citizen, I could vote. And I didn't know some things, like I registered, I never got my voter registration card, I never got my stuff in the mail. So on election day, because I was going to vote early, I didn't get that in the mail either. So on election day, I was like, oh, well, I can't vote. I don't have my voter registration. I don't have my mail-in ballot. I can't vote. And I was on the phone with a friend and they said, just take your driver's license and go. I'm like, I could do that? And he's like, yeah, you just go and show them your driver's license. That's all you need because you're registered. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And I went and I voted. But see, I didn't have the education. I didn't know that I could just go with my driver's license and do it because it's not every state you could do that either.
Absolutely. Hit it on the head right there.
So you need to understand in the state that you're in and in the state that you're voting, what are your rights as a voter? How do you vote? What do you need? What you could leave at home. Like you don't have to bring your passport, your birth certificate, all your stuff.
That's right. That's right.
You need to understand these things just even for the process of doing it. And then let's talk about, all the misinformation out there. Because there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it.
Well, yeah, that's weeding through the craziness. I think you bring up a huge point. First and foremost is that procedures and policies change by state. Every state has a different set of election laws, and people aren't aware of that. So first-time voters aren't just 18-year-old students, turning 18 for the first time. First-time voters are folks that are newly naturalized citizens.
Yep.
First-time voters are people coming from California, New York, Georgia to the state of Florida. They're first-time voters for us, but they don't realize that. A lot of folks don't understand that because where is that education? We're not going to, as soon as you cross the border, there's not a big old sign that says, get registered to vote, because you do. That doesn't sit there sometimes in the naturalization office, big old board. You're not going to see that in your high school's big old board. Where's it coming from? The civics is gone from the educational system. We might get some kind of civics if we turn on TV and watch Jailhouse Rock. I'm sorry, not Jailhouse Rock.
Okay, so
how
earlier
long?
you said I would show your age by saying it. You just showed your age. I did not. Talk about Jailhouse Rock.
But you gotta, I mean, really, the civics is absent from
Yeah.
our curriculum.
But
And
even just the process, like when I was naturalized, they said, okay, yeah, now you could vote, but what do I do? Like,
yeah,
where do I go to get that information? Do I have to go down to the Board of Elections? Where is it? So there is that disconnect. There's the lack of really understanding what that process is and how to get a hold of it. And
yeah.
so tell me what best candidate, how that addresses that gap.
Best candidate fills that void of missing information from the process of elections in the state of Florida, particularly right now. Very first and foremost, I keep saying that because we go down to the foundation, creating an MVP, a minimal viable product, means a skeleton-based, bare bones. And basically what that is for us is a voter education toolbox. So when you create a profile on your cell phone, you're now accessible to a toolbox of information. You can see your sample ballot. You could see your precincts, be able to find your polling place. You could see a glossary of terms and
Oh,
what
that
these
was
things
another
mean.
thing. Where do you
Yeah,
vote? I'm like,
exactly.
what
Where do
is
I
your
go?
district? Because they're
You
always
know,
redrawing district lines, and it's like,
yes.
what do
And that G word. I don't mean Gino, I mean gerrymandering. So
gerrymandering? Yeah.
there's things that we're attacking with this application. We see attacking because we are disrupting an age-old process that for many years didn't even include us. Me as a male, Black African American, you as a female. It didn't include us.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, still doesn't, as long as we don't have accessible information.
Mm-hmm.
Accessible information is the key. So voter education toolbox is first and foremost. Aside from that, for the candidate side, better information is better for candidates and voters. And if the first time candidates, they don't know how to, get their forms turned in on time, who's going to make them aware that you got to have a certain amount of money in your campaign finance fund. How do you actually get in front of voters? You got to knock on doors. What do you have to do? Unless you actually hire a campaign manager, you're behind the 8 ball for many, many, many months. And by that time, somebody else has raised $1 million and on TV now, and they're just showing everybody why they shouldn't vote
And
for
a
that
million
person.
signs everywhere on everybody's
Signs
home.
in your grass all over the place. That's how we actually know the elections are coming, because the signs are everywhere.
The
Pretty
signs
much
start popping up everywhere. Yeah.
but that they only come around for every 4 years, unfortunately. Sometimes, the local elections, we never get that publicity, and that's a problem, because the local elections are the most important. Those are the ones that affect our
That are
backyard
governing
right
our
here.
cities, our
Yes.
communities.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are really important. So yeah, so that's going to help us really understand. So from the candidate side, if you're looking to make a difference and you want to run, you have an opportunity not just to learn the process of doing that yourself, but also get in front of potential voters.
That's absolutely right. So you're usually having to raise millions of dollars to actually get on TV and the radio. Yeah. And that gets a lot of people under the radar for their whole campaign. This allows you to reach people exponentially for a fraction of the cost. And so I keep going to my cell phone, but you have probably thousands of people in your contact list. Well, if you have a profile as a candidate, the first thing we allow you to do is access every one of those folks. You could push a message out to them. Hey, come see my platform. Come read what I'm all about on here. Oh, by the way, I'm having a rally, a live rally on my phone, which you can just log into your app, on your voter app, and you can see us. We'll be, in our living room. You can be in yours as well. You don't have to get out in the rain and go 15 miles to the park where we're going to be, but you can sit right there in your room. You can put us on TV if you want. You can see it. There's a file cabinet of files that I can file for my, the people who are working with my staff as a candidate. I can give you updates as to when these documents are due to the local board as a candidate. You know what? This is due coming up tomorrow. You better get on it. Those kinds of things keep people from staying in the race.
They keep them in the race. Yeah, because so many times good people are shut out because of a technicality, or they didn't file something in time, or something like that. And so even as hard as you try to do the right thing or do it right, if you don't know all the intricacies of the process, you're left on the sideline. And so this helps the candidates as well as those who are voting have more access. As you're talking, I'm like, this is taking grassroots to another level.
Democracy 2.0.
Yeah, you can really launch a whole grassroots campaign from this app without people ever having to leave their home. You can
Absolutely
reach
right.
that, and not with annoying text messages
Mm-mm.
and not with annoying
And
text
phone
messages
calls in the middle of the night and
right,
robocalls, all this
robocalls and
crazy.
all those things. But yes, that's you are really, you're the Uber of elections. You're disrupting
I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it. As long as
disrupt
we
the
have some
process.
progress.
Yeah, because another
It's
major
time.
election is coming up next year. Another major election is coming up next year. And so this is being launched at a time when all the negative ads and all that stuff we're getting ready to be bombarded with.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to know the truth, or you want to really investigate or research it more, you don't have to start digging and spend your whole day trying to, look at this and that and that. You could go to the app and really source out what is this candidate all about.
Absolutely right. Pinpoint.
Yeah, because a lot of times we hear stuff. You see an ad here, and then you see the counter ad there, and you're like, well, what is the truth in this? What is it? Is that, so instead of waiting for ABC, NBC, CBS to come and tell you
That's right.
that we did, okay, so we're looking into the truth in this. You can actually go into the app and find the truth yourself, and stop believing all the negative things that are being thrown back and forth. Let me ask you about this. Because social media, maybe a lot of people don't know this about social media, but
Let's
they
tell them.
streamline based on what you're interested in. They will start feeding you only that. So if you click like on something that is a particular way, they will keep feeding that to you, and they won't feed you the other side, or they won't feed you anything else. They will just keep bombarding you with the stuff that you've already said you liked. So if you're someone who's really a truth seeker and you want to know, is this really true? That's me. I question everything. Is this really true? What are both sides saying about this? And not just what are both sides saying about it. Let me really investigate the person. Did this person really say that? And what's the whole speech, not just the little, that little soundbite that you took.
The sound bites, yeah.
Made it, and manipulated it for your advantage. What was the whole sentence?
And so it's precisely what we're trying to do. Actually, the 3 stars in our actual logo, they represent something. The first, we're going to motivate folks, we're going to educate them, we're going to have them participate. So that's the first 3. But the second 3 resembles our judicial system, or the executive system and the legislative system. Those are 3 branches of government, or 3 checks and balances, I should say. We have the same in place with Best Candidate. There's 3 checks and balances for everything. For candidates specifically, the first thing they'll do is they create a profile. They have the option to click to send out and actually fill out an oath of ethics, and they will sign that oath of ethics. And that says from the start, from the very foundation of this application, that as candidates, they're going to operate in an ethical manner as long as they're on this platform. That means say the right thing, say the truth, do the right thing, don't blast other people. We're starting off in a foundation that lets people know this is going to be goodness here, wholesome. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we want to make sure that all the fact checkers out there have a say as well, because they're doing the work for us. They're turning that engine of weeding through the crap. They're finding out the source. We'll partner with them as well. The last part about this is the crowd, the population, the people. We will also be able to say to you, hey, you did not go to Harvard. You put that on your resume here. You did not go there, because I went there. I never saw you. And so the three things there are fact checking, create a perfect foundation for truth. And I think that if we can put those 3 together and on a daily basis have that a part of this system that allows candidates to go on there and level the playing field for them, They're no longer beholden to the millionaires that give them money so that when they get office, they have to do everything they tell them. That's gone. Because now the people, they got 5,000 people, the people that are giving them the notoriety, the attention, those are the folks you're beholden to. You're representing them, not Microsoft, not all these people all over the country, Wall Street. That will organically end so long as people put a priority in voter education. That is what the real purpose of this is. Nonpartisan, non-biased voter education.
I love it. When is it officially launching?
Well, right now we have the design, the UI. That means the development side that has all of the pictures and the click on this and where you're going to go when you actually use it. So we're creating the back end, which means the actual software right now. And that means when you click on it, it has to go somewhere. And so that's the easiest way that's how they explain it to me. So
listen, I'm not a software developer. I just have the idea, okay?
I'm just saying it back, so that's how I learned it. So and I'm not afraid to say, because it's a learning experience for me too. So we're developing that portion right now. And the next few months or so, we'll be able to check and make sure it works well. And then we'll push it out in the fall, hopefully, as a beta test. And so that'll be the first opportunity to see it. And right now we're taking pre-subscriptions. So folks go on our website, they log on, they click on it, they put their information in. We'll send them an email saying, hey, it's live, it's ready to go. We want you to test it. So we want to beta test to about 2,000 at least people that are willing to say, you know what, I want something better. I want to know where my polling place is. I want to be able to check this candidate and find out if they really voted for things or what they stand for. I want to know the truth about them because they put it on here. It didn't come from Channel 7 or Channel 10. They put it on there.
Or Fox News.
Well, we won't. Yeah, I got to be on the fence. I can't say.
Say any,
which is which. But being an elections official in the past, I'm used to being at Publix and people asking me what party I represent and having to say I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what listen, I'm agnostic. I'm party agnostic. I don't
party agnostic.
Either one. Yeah.
But it's just that we have to make sure, I think, when we're doing this app, that everybody is involved. This is a place for everybody. I've got teenagers that are afraid to speak up to their friends because they don't want to, lose their friends. I had one young lady said, "I'll create a civil war in my house if I come home and tell my dad that I'm voting this way when I turn 18." There's no safe space for them. At the dinner table, we can only talk about how good the food tastes or how bad it tastes. We can't talk about religion. You can't talk about politics. So where do they go? What do? We put it under the rug. And that's what apathy is. We've got to address that apathy because all of us individually have a say.
Wow. That a couple of things that you've said that are very powerful is that every vote counts. Every vote. If you abstain from voting because you don't like the candidates, because you don't know the candidates, this will address that because you wouldn't have an excuse not to know them or not to know the issue. You'll be able to go in and see it for yourself. So the abstinence, hopefully this will address the abstinence. And then so everybody's vote counts. Everybody needs to vote. And the other thing we talked about is that you just mentioned is this sweeping things under the rug or having to suppress it because it creates a civil war. And things are so divided right now. It's never been this divided before, I think, since the Civil War, right?
Yeah, right.
Since the Civil War, politics have not been as divided as it is right now. And it's so polarizing. And so this is an opportunity to really discuss the issues and to stop talking about the people, like, the personalities, because I think we're getting into too much of whether you like this one or like that one.
Popularity contest.
Right, the personality thing instead of, well, what do they really stand for and how are they going to impact my life and the life of my children and my grandchildren? Like, how is this trickling down into the generations? Will this policy that they're implementing now, how is that going to affect my girl child in the next 20 years?
Absolutely.
When you're taking away, when you're taking away certain rights or blocking certain things, how is that affecting me and my children and my grandchildren? You'll get the facts and then you can vote you can vote more aware and more educated, which is what this whole thing is about. It's about education. And leaders, confident leaders seek out the truth and they seek out education. And so this is why I wanted this episode of this show, because it is so important as we're choosing the leaders, the people who are going to take us into the next, decade or so, because everything they do has a trickle, it has an impact for decades. It's not just for that day that they sign that bill.
Yeah, we
So,
tend to look a lot at our candidates and get disgusted, and that makes us go away. But the scenario I brought up earlier about me teaching and my students,
yeah,
we're both involved in that process. You can't give up because the leaders you're finding aren't leadable. That makes you also less, of a student.
yeah.
So you've got to also do your part and demand certain things of people because they're representing you. But you can't do that without the facts, without the information. So our app is going to do two things. It's going to make better candidates. It's
Mm-hmm.
also going to give you better information. And
And
that's all we're trying to do.
that part about making better candidates is huge, because if you're like, well, this is the voter pool, this is all we got, because people without money aren't having access.
That's right.
So now you can have really good people who have the passion for making change be a part of the process without having to have millions and millions of dollars just to get
Precisely.
just to get
That's
recognized. So
that school teacher, that 30-year retiree school teacher that's been in the community all her life. She knows the community. She knows all the kids that there because they work there. She's been there for her whole life, 60 years. She's running in the election now, but she doesn't have the funds to stay in the race. Does she know the committee? Is she the best person for this job? Yeah, because she knows it like the back of her hand. But she can't stay in the race because she can't raise that $1 million to get on TV. Yet you have someone else in some other state that comes here, or even the other county that comes here, doesn't know the turf yet, but it has the means.
has
And
the
it's going to
money.
be on that ballot. It's going to be making traction. It's going to be actually your new representative because he had the means. That shouldn't put someone who's well qualified out of the race or conversation. That should no longer be something that prevents people from representing the people that they actually grew up with, know, and love.
Yeah.
And if we can level that playing field, if we can just make a dent in that the first couple of years and then make sure people know this is something that's viable to get in the hands of everybody, because everybody has a cell phone now, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But if we use our tools where it's supposed to be used
Yes.
and have some limitations on them and things, they could be a viable tool for change in the positive direction. That's what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Well, Gino, I love this. Thank you so much for
Oh, thank you.
coming on. And okay, so we're going to jump into rapid fire.
Okay, let's
And
get it.
yeah, and I love this conversation so far, but here we go. So the first question I have for you is, what's the biggest leadership mistake you ever made yourself or was a victim of?
The biggest leadership mistake that I made or was a victim of. I will say that probably the biggest leadership mistake that I made, I'll say that, is not relying more on the people that I was leading. I was trying to do it all myself. And a good football coach knows he doesn't know linebackers, knows he doesn't know quarterbacks, but he will hire an expert at those positions. And that makes him better, makes the team better, makes the whole process better. I was relying on my own know-how, not getting everybody else a chance to show their own expertise. And I wish I had. But I learned early on enough to know that I need to do better at that, let people shine, step back, stick back a little bit as a leader.
Awesome. So what's the best leadership advice that you ever got that you're implementing now?
Best leadership advice. I will say that as the voter education director, I was responsible for the education of 1.2 million people. And South Florida is a very diverse county. And I wanted my staff to resemble the people that we were interacting with. And I'm so glad that I have a Creole speaking person, I had a Hispanic person, I had a white person, myself African American. I was trying to get an Asian. I was trying to make sure that we represent the people we're serving. There's no greater heart than that of a public servant. And I wanted folks to know that you can come and get the information from us because we're going to give it to you straight. We're going to give the natural stuff. It's no BS in our voice of message. and that it's nonpartisan at all times. And that was the best thing I've ever done.
Wow. As you're saying, it has to represent you. I remember as a child growing up, when I grew up in Australia, I didn't feel representation anywhere I went. It was like I couldn't see anything represented me. And so I believe that is vital. That's so important when you show up somewhere that you don't feel like, oh, they're not going to talk to me because I don't see anybody here that looks anything like me.
Right.
All right. So what's the most Jedi audacious leadership move that you ever made that was so out of the box, but it worked?
I had this crazy notion that students should be able to go together to the polls and vote for the first time. And we made it happen through the help of the 100 Black men of Broward County, Urban League of Broward County, also the NAACP. We actually had early voting sites at 20 locations around the county, and we actually had about 15 buses from schools, from high schools, that got on the bus, pre-registered, of course, got them registered to vote, had their voter information card and their driver's license with them, got on the buses, had some chaperones, teachers chaperoning them. They walked into the voting sites. One particular site that comes to mind in Hollywood Library. There was a line outside there. This is a big old election, 2004. And this line parted, and these students got off that bus and went to the front of the line. They went in as children, and they came out as mature adults. You could see it on their face, and everyone clapped. Everybody in line clapped. It was
I
the
got
most beautiful
goosebumps.
thing.
Yeah.
I just did too, because it was the most beautiful thing that we did. CNN came down for the next one. It was so it was a beautiful moment for everybody that was there. It really was.
Wow. All right. So that's awesome. So this is an out of the box one. So if you were a castaway on a deserted island, what 3 things would you hope washed ashore or was airdropped to you that you just couldn't live without, and one of them cannot be a cell phone?
3 things I couldn't live without: a water purifier, because I got plenty of water, just can't drink it. A nice fishing pole. That's stupid. I know that's stupid. But seriously, wash up a bottle of hope.
Bottle of hope. Oh.
Because if you uncork a bottle of hope, I think that anything is possible, and it stays within you, and you have another day to go for.
I've never
Without
heard
that bottle of hope, you just have nothing to go for. And I think that a lot of us just need that. We just need some hope. Keep going.
Yeah. So who's someone that inspires you every day?
My mother.
Oh.
She inspires me. She doesn't know it, but she inspires me because she was the first person that told me that she went away so far. She was born and raised in Colombia and Panama. She came to this country by herself. Her siblings were younger than her. She came here by herself to go to school, full scholarship. She's scared to death, but she made it happen, and she stuck it out. And it was come time for me to go to college myself. I wanted to go somewhere local, but I really loved the school up north, and I didn't want to go because it's so far. She said, Gino, if I, a person of a different country and different language, can leave my entire family and come to another country and go to school, you can go a couple miles.
You could go a few miles.
Get your stuff and let's
out.
go. And that inspired me. I said, if my mom could do it, I can do it. And I think about that so many times when she's telling me the first naturalization process that she went to. She got her citizenship. And it keeps me grounded because we tend to look at people for their value a lot of times. We try to find value in people. A lot of times we don't find value. So we put people beneath us, and we need to stop doing that as people. Because everybody has something. It's just not maybe not be for you, but they have value. Just take that and be worthy of that you're around them. And I think that if everyone thought that way and would stop being so polarized, I think that we got to agree with everybody. Everything has to be the same. What kind of world would that be? Oh my goodness.
It would be boring.
But I think that, very boring and just not a whole lot of future. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. I got 2 more for you.
Come on.
If you could choose one person, real or fictional, alive or past, who would you want to sit and break bread with?
That's a question that I think about sometimes also, especially when I'm a spiritual person, not religious, but spiritual. But I also am someone that is I'm drenched in the present, in the now. So Barack Obama, I saw him when he came down. I was campaigning. Obviously, I was in the office. But to sit down and talk to him about his experience,
Mm.
about the way he handles adversity, because being the first African American man in the White House, I can't imagine some of the just overall heart palpitating
Yes.
daggers in their eyes looking at him, comments, whatever beliefs. But he came out of that just a more perfect man,
So
being
much
that
class.
being that he was able to overcome and still have some grace. A lot of times I want to go and just, crack somebody over the head because they're looking at me. I don't deserve that. But in the meantime, grace keeps me back from doing that. He has had to have, does that make sense? The
That makes a
most
lot of sense.
grace of anyone of his time aside from the 1960s.
Yeah.
So I think that he would be my alive person, and Jesus Christ would be my
Past.
everlasting person.
Absolutely. Well, he's alive too.
Yeah, my
So,
everlasting person.
yeah.
And I just would, because also would have had to go through 10
Similar.
times, 100 times, 1,000 times more, obviously, but that grace that you can still come away with is priceless.
I love that answer. All right. Last one is what book are you reading now? Or give me three of your favorite book titles, if you're not reading anything currently.
Well, this one is not really a book, but when you said book, it's a movie. It's one of my favorite movies, The Book of Eli.
Ah, okay.
With Denzel Washington. I say that because there was so much going on in that movie that we didn't realize till the end of the movie. And when he talked about winning the race, completing everything he'd done, and it all culminated, there was a reason why he was on that path. He didn't know it, but there was a reason why he was on that path. I tend to try to figure out what my path was early on in life, but now I think I got it. I think my path is to get folks education somehow the best that I possibly can with the people that are around me. Another book that comes to mind is a book that I actually wrote about 20 years ago called The Other Box. And The Other Box was a book about a little kid who didn't look like everybody else, but his teacher in school wanted him to choose one box that said, "Which race are you?" He wanted to
Mm,
choose two boxes, got in trouble for that, and hence the book. The other box is putting people in exactly that, a box. And I felt at that time, and I was backed up by my mom. She said, "You know what? You're an African American male. Your mother is Hispanic. You want to choose both boxes. That means you're not forgetting about me, and I appreciate that. So let's go to bat for you, Gino." And then she did. And so I always felt like because the masses don't see you doesn't mean you're not there. And
mm,
there are other people that really love that idea in that box in that book. I thought more about another book that I was reading. This was recently. It has to do with a great whale and its captain trying to capture him. I saw a movie about it recently, but the book dives into what we think we need as a society, but yet don't because our minds haven't come together enough to create something better. We
mm.
look at right now electricity. Now we're talking about solar. Before that, they killed whales to get that energy. Their oil was used
Lover.
to
Mhm.
power our homes and the streets and things. We were able to move past that because folks said enough is enough. We're at that crossroads again. We just need to understand that that's where we are. We're at the crossroads of us being able to stand up and have the audacity to
Mm.
be ourselves. We have to be able to do that and know we have worth.
Wow. And that is I know Captain Ahab. What
Moby
book?
Dick.
Moby Dick. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the name of the book. Moby Dick. Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Captain
wow.
Ahab was torn between trying to get out there and get this whale and show his family that he could do it, and ended up being shipwrecked and came back and had a good life after that. But things changed after that. So
Well,
it was
thank
him
you
against the
so
whale,
much.
him against the sea.
This was great. Thank you so much, Gino, for your time, for sharing your knowledge. And everybody go out. What is the website that they can go and pre-register if you're in the state of Florida for Best Candidate?
Absolutely. It's bestcandidate.net, BEST candidate, CANDIDATE.net. And you'll see the prompt there on the back where you just put your full name in there, your email, your phone number if you want to. And what happens is you get put on the actual list so that when the app is ready, you'll get email prompted to go ahead and sign up for the app.
So is this just rolling out in Florida to start, or is it rolling out nationally? Because everybody listens to this all over the place. In fact, it's global. So hopefully Best Candidate can, expand.
That's
But
the
for right now,
goal.
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
goal.
but it doesn't matter where you are right now. You could be anywhere in the world. If you sign up, you'll be on our list. But the folks that'll be able to use it when we launch the beta test will be here around South Florida. But soon after that, after we test it, make sure it's right and working in good condition and what the people want to see it actually do, then we'll roll it out to the rest of Florida, then south of the country, and then rest of the country. And then parts north, east, west, and south, different countries as we get bigger and better. But
Get
we
ready,
can't do
get
that
ready.
without the first people to start unrolling. So we would appreciate that.
Yes, get ready.
Bestcandidate.net.
Bestcandidate.net. Thank you, Gino. And thank you for your brilliance and your courage to want to disrupt, or the need to disrupt, a
Something
broken
disruptive
election
this way
system.
comes.
Yes.
Thank you, Alicia. This was great. I really
You're
appreciate it. Thank
welcome.
you.